Okay, let's talk about preseason some more. I have been moving for the past few days, and so I had to play catch up. Now we go to Chet and Wemby, which it kind of hurts to get to this one like 4 days late, but okay. So I imagine we've all seen just some of the unreal defensive stuff that Wemby's done, where like Jalen Williams beats him, he turns around and then blocks him at the rim from behind anyway. That one reach-in play where he stole it from Cason Wallace and he's reaching from like damn near the top of the key as Cason Wallace is nearly at the free throw line. I mean, right before that, he almost blocked a J-Dub 3. I mean, it like barely hit the rim because you could tell J-Dub was like, well, I got to shoot this over him and this is not going to be easy. But then Wemby gets a transition thing on the other end. I mean, there were a number of times when Wemby would just book it in transition because, he's mostly playing off of wing players on defense, like, Lou Dort, J-Dub, Ousmane Dieng, that sort of thing, right? Like, he's not playing the center. That's more so like Zach Collins or whatever. So that does give him an opportunity to get out in transition. And the Spurs, like, immediately, they're just like, where's Wemby? Just throw it. And, I mean, they did end up with some turnovers, but that just shows you, like, how they're thinking when it comes to that. I think whenever the Spurs face a team where Wemby can help off of someone a little more aggressively, that's going to be a very tough time for your offense because that dude can just be in 3 places at once, basically. And then on the other end, while sure, there are still times where if smaller guys crowd Wemby, the handle can look a little loose. You're also going to get like those jumpers that he made over J-Dub, where maybe I'm crazy. It seems like Wemby's release is a little faster from what it was in Summer League. I might be trying too hard to have a take there, though. And then he did get J-Dub in the post a couple times as well, and that's a huge thing for Wemby. Like, if he can just make smaller guys pay for being on him. Granted, everybody is smaller than Wemby, but you know what I mean. If I can be a little selfish, I would have wanted to see some more Devin Vassell cooking, but it's preseason, it's fine. But of course, we have the other end where we have Chet, who played really well in this one, and the 2 things that stuck out the most for me, one was just a specific play where Giddey's like posting up, I don't remember who the hell it was, my bad, and he just throws an opposite court pass to Chet for a 3, and it's just like, yeah, spacing, that's amazing for you. And then the other one, 2 of different ones where when Chet was just really physical and just went at Zach Collins on drives. One was a 3-point play, the other one I think he just drew a foul, but yeah, I mean, look, if you're going to make threes and then also put the pressure on opposing bigs if they're going to, be higher up on you, or hell, even if they're going to give you a runway and you want to start going, like Chet at center, which the Thunder did lean on more in this game. Like in Summer League, they had him in the bigger Jalen Williams, and Chet acted as more of like the 4. When Chet's at center, man, like, it just unlocks something different with the Thunder. Because, of course, we know the rim protection and all that stuff. So, yeah, next we're going to go to Ben Simmons, and the aggressiveness is noticeable. There was a play in their recent game where, off of a made basket, he pushes it down court, forces a couple guys to collapse onto him, he makes the bucket, and then he's yelling at the referee for the foul. It's like, hold on, Ben Simmons, is he back? Now, I know his turnaround jumper in the post did make some waves on the internet or whatever, but he had a number of good backdowns that would then lead to him like kicking it out to maybe Dinwiddie or Mikal Bridges or whatever, or just random paint touches like early in possessions where he's just looking to get downhill, and then from there it's make the next play or whatever. And of course, you don't need me to tell you how different that is compared to last year where he was dealing with the back injury and everything. And, I do think it also puts Dinwiddie in more of a catch and shoot situation, which he's actually looked like pretty okay with so far. And if you want to look at the numbers with Dinwiddie just on NBA.com, his catch and shoots, he's actually been in like the high 30s to even low 40s on catch and shoots. It just hasn't been on a whole lot of volume for the past few years. So while the sample size isn't huge, and Dinwiddie certainly likes to get his let me hold the ball for a long time on, we'll just put it like that, I do think having that other ball handler in Ben, if he's going to be this aggressive, can take a little bit of Dinwiddie off the table, which I think is the best version of Dinwiddie. I thought Ben was also pretty decisive with his screen setting as well. Like, there were plays where you could tell his plan was like, I'm going to throw it to whoever and set you a screen, so that's cool. I know I already talked about the Suns and their game against the Pistons, but, Nurkic, he was fantastic in that game, man. And I do think his passing was really noticeable, with the most memorable one being when he was on the screen and then he, in a split second, basically like turns around to find KD on the opposite wing, like off of the screen, right? But also, I kind of said this in the first one, but I do like how the Suns have just already kind of ingrained it into themselves, and Beal didn't play in the second one, but anyway, of just get Nurkic involved enough to give us enough extra variety besides just KD or Book just cooking, pretty much, random handoff actions, Nurkic screening off ball for Eric Gordon as well to get him moving a little bit before catching the ball or whatever. And Nurkic also had some physical finishes at the rim going at Ayton, and yeah, he outplayed Ayton. I mean, listen, if Nurkic keeps this up, then my initial reaction to the Suns making that trade, yeah, it's going to look dumb. And obviously, Nurkic is more comfortable playing this way for them than Ayton was, right? Also thought it was interesting how Vogel mixed up like some drop and some like playing Nurkic higher up on screens. We'll see with that stuff. If we can go to the Blazers. So in my Future of the Blazers video, I did a whole thing on how many more DeAndre Ayton post-ups are we going to see and all that stuff. Maybe I'm just not remembering right, but I feel like there weren't really a whole lot in the first preseason game. Well, second preseason game, but their first one against an NBA team. He did have one time where the ball ended up with him in the post, and then he had a nice pass to Simons on the top of the key for a three. And there wasn't even a whole lot of attempts to get Ayton like really used as a hub or whatever, like on handoff actions outside of like maybe an occasional one here and there. Their offense was really just Ayton. You're going to screen for either Scoot or Sharp or Simons, a whole lot of Scoot and Simons. Jeremy Grant as well. And within that, you definitely saw Ayton get his like paint jumpers on a little bit, some hook shots and everything. He didn't play that great. He missed a lot of those shots. If we could talk about Scoot definitely pulled off some stuff, man. Early on, like 1 minute in or whatever, he gets the ball in transition, basically beats everybody down floor, gathers step, draws a foul. This all happens in, I don't know, half a second or whatever. A couple times where he would run like an empty corner action with Ayton and look really composed coming around the screen, and then he's going to hit Ayton with like the bounce pass. And again, Ayton missed a lot of those shots, but I like how Scoot looked at them anyway. There was one play specifically where Scoot, he caught it and then drove on the wing, and he ended up committing a turnover because he tried just too difficult of a pass. But the fact that he was able to get from the three-point line to the paint off of catching the ball just in the flow of a play, it was intriguing nonetheless, right? I mean, we all get it. Like, Scoot's downhill. It's not even potential. We know what he can do getting downhill to the basket, right? We saw, like, Shaedon Sharp ghost screen for Anthony Simons a couple times to get himself involved, and that was a question I had, like, because I imagine Sharp is going to get the least amount of pick-and-roll possessions out of the main guys on the Blazers. Now we can go on to the Rockets and the Pelicans game. I do want to catch the first Rockets game, but again, I'm catching up, and I'm not trying to go nearly a week without uploading a video. So the Rockets, their offense had more structure. Defensively, they were talking way more often. I mean, first play of the game is like down screen for Jalen Green. And then, I mean, kind of like an Iverson cut, when Iverson would go from one wing to the opposite wing. And this is with Şengün having the ball, but Fred's kind of near him. And then Jabari screens for Jalen Green so he can cut. And then that ends up with Jabari getting open because both defenders went with Jalen Green. And so Jabari gets an open three. That goes in. We had like Jabari running handoff actions with Şengün where he was able to actually work off of a screen, because last year it was Jabari go stand in the corner and that's it, whereas Udoka is at least giving Jabari a little bit more of an actual green light to handle. Of course, Fred as a lead guard is huge for all this. Funny enough, the one Fred Şengün action I remember the most is the one where they didn't make a basket, where it was empty corner. I think Fred, he might have rejected the screen, and then he throws to Şengün. Şengün like pump fakes, and the Pelicans were kind of forced to switch it, so CJ is now like on Şengün, but he pumps fakes him out of the way, and then Valanciunas is in the paint, and so then it's Şengün back to Fred for a three that doesn't go in, but I'm like, okay, I see what's happening here. There were a couple plays there where like Jabari screened on the ball as well. Of course you're going to get like your Jalen Green pick and rolls and stuff. Then we had Amen enter the game, and off rip, it's like transition, beats everybody down floor, hits Herb Jones with like a crossover into a spin, then draws a foul. And I do like the idea of Amen being able to not run wild, but be unleashed a bit coming off the bench for Houston. I imagine, look, the lineups are going to be tinkered in a way to where he's going to be playing high 20s in minutes, I would imagine. So he's definitely going to get minutes with a lot of the starters out there. In fact, I loved one play where I think it was like off of a made basket. He just went down court immediately, forces like 4 Pelicans to collapse on him in the paint, kicks it out to Jalen Green, who misses the three, but still, you can already see the effect that Amen can have on these guys. And defensively, I mean, off rip, it was like way more ball pressure. Of course, Dylan Brooks and Fred, even if Fred was a little worse last year, but I think it's fair to believe he can bounce back to what he was a couple years ago defensively. I thought the communication was really good, where you could see guys pointing, hey, let's switch this if the Pels ran some random off-ball set. There was a good amount of switching, a good amount of like swiping in on the wing or whatever to try to reach in on a ball handler. Like it looked like a Udoka defense pretty much. As for the Pelicans, shout out to the Pelicans. If they're healthy, they'll be really good. We all know this. Looking forward to seeing Trey Murphy back. I got a couple more to look at. I did want to see how the Quinn Snyder Hawks were looking, and I mean, I think one thing that was noticeable pretty early on when Snyder took over is that he wants Trey standing in the corner a little more when he doesn't have the ball. because Trey does have the tendency to kind of drift if he's on the wing or the top of the key. If he's in the corner, he has to stand there, right? We did see a couple of like stagger screens for Trey where he was able to then get it on the move and then get inside. We saw one like handoff action, empty corner with Bogdanovich that was interesting. So little extra stuff here and there besides just Trey DeJounte pick and roll up top all day. And then defensively, he had Clint Capella higher up on screens, potentially even to the point of putting 2 on the ball sometimes against the Grizzlies, having not a lot of their main guys in. So okay for what that means. And finally, let's talk about Brandon Miller, specifically with the Hornets. I mean, for the Hornets in general, I continue to be impressed with Mark Williams. Just when that dude's on the court, man, the evidence keeps on saying the Hornets' defense is going to be good. Yes, they were facing the Wizards, I understand, but okay. As Steve Clifford had Mark Williams, sometimes in a drop, sometimes higher up on screens. He's just versatile, you know? But anyway, for Brandon Miller. So when the game started, it was Rozier and LaMelo out there with Brandon Miller, so it was a whole lot of LaMelo and Rozier, you know? And Miller was mostly spotting up off of those guys, which I think is fine. I would like to think, as we get into the regular season, that Clifford can do the lineups in a way to where Miller can get more opportunities. Like, let's say if he's out there with just one of those guys, then he can get a little bit more on-ball reps. As far as how Miller has looked so far, I think he's been comfortable in the role. You know, I think just general spacing, relocating, playing off of everybody. He did have that one spin move in the Heat game, which got everybody talking about the Paul George comparison. And yeah, he definitely shows those flashes. Of course, he had the dunk over Daniel Gafford that was an offensive foul. Yeah, it might just be a sort of gradual thing with Miller where he's not going to be featured as much as, like, let's say Scoot, and okay, we just go from there. I mean, I would like to see some more like down screens for him, just some more random handoff actions, just something. Like, I'm not expecting pick and roll all day when you got LaMelo on the team. Like, you want those possessions to go to LaMelo, and of course Rozier's been around for a while. Like, he deserves his shots too, but okay, I don't know what I'm saying now.